Caffeine and Coils, and I'm Deanna.
And I'm Jenny.
And today we have a special guest with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Bud Mingledorff. I am the chairman of the board of Mingledorff's Incorporated.
We feel so lucky to have you with us today. We're so excited for this second anniversary episode for Caffeine and Coils. So thank you for joining us today.
How could I say no? I'm not that strong.
We're pretty convincing, aren't we?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
So we were just talking before we came on that you're kind of Mingledorff's original podcaster.
Yes, I was the one that decided that scorekeeping became a big deal back in the really in the 1970s, when we thought the Japanese were going to take over everything. And when people started looking at the difference between Japanese companies and American companies, is that the Japanese kept score on everything. And they were precise in their scorekeeping. And we began to use sporting analogies about, if you go into the Braves game, and you go in the third inning, what's the first thing you want to know?
What's the score?
What's the score? So we decided in following, there was a thing that they were giving out. Malcolm Baldrige was a guy that worked for General MacArthur when we defeated Japan. And he was the one that discovered that the Japanese industry didn't run, even though the Americans built, Japanese, I think World War II, built 6 aircraft carriers. We built 25. But at first, everything made in Japan was junk. It was little paper umbrellas that you drop into a drink and everything. All of a sudden, they're producing Hondas, and they're eating our lunch, and they're eating the Germans' lunch. We thought Volkswagen was going to take over the world. And here, all of a sudden, these cars are coming in from Japan, and the American cars were junk. We're building junk and selling it to Americans is what we do. And we were now the junk makers. And the Ford Motor Company, Shirley had a Mustang that had a vinyl roof, and you literally could see daylight under the vinyl roof where the panels didn't match. And so here you have cars that you could run a BB down the seams, and the BB doesn't fall out because the seams all match. And the American cars. So anyway, we started scorekeeping. And so I wanted to publish the scores to the company so everybody knew where we were and what was going on within the company, with the industry, what was going on with Carrier. And so at first I was doing it all on paper with graphs, that showed a rolling 12 months over 3 years, and you could see the trend lines within the company and everything. And then studios began to show up that could create cassette tapes. Now, we'd had cassette tapes, you buy music on them. When I was in the Army in the 1970s, I think it's when cassette tapes came out. We had VCR tape, VHS tapes. You get this tape and you got a whole album, but it's in different sections, and so you couldn't rewind if your tune you wanted to hear was in section number 4, and it's in the middle of section number 4. You had to go to the beginning of section number 4 and listen to songs you didn't want to hear in order to hear the song. And the cassette tapes were phenomenal. You could rewind it. You had to guess how far you had to rewind it, but you could rewind the thing, and there's where your song is. So anyway, studios began to show up that you could go and dictate a cassette tape. So I said, well, this is great. So then I could actually explain instead of trying to write all of this stuff out, thinking that people are going to read it. We're sending it to everybody's home address so that their spouses and everything would know what's going on, at work. And So anyway, the idea was that they could listen to the cassette tapes with all this windshield time, particularly the field sales guys and all, and we put cassette players in the trucks so they could listen to me drive. Like that's really going to happen. So anyway, we did cassette tapes, and then we did cassette tapes. The technology transitioned to CDs. And then we're half pregnant. We're doing half CDs and half cassette tapes, and then finally just did. Okay, we're not going to do cassette tapes anymore. We're going to do all CDs. And one of the guys retired. He was in a quarter century club. He gave me a shoebox full of all of my cassette tapes.
Oh, wow. He'd kept them all.
He kept them all. And it was entitled Talks with Bud. And I don't have a cassette player to play them.
Do you still have them?
But I have this shoebox full of these cassette tapes, and he saved them. And I don't know why he saved them. He's just a string saver. But so then we transitioned, and now we have our own studio, and we still do. David does the broadcast, and it is really important, particularly with Mingledorff's corporate culture being what it is, that everybody at Mingledorff's knows what's going on, good, bad, you know. Our philosophy is we ever put our ox in a ditch, and we have done that before. The people that are going to pull the ox out of the ditch, the people that work for the company, not the management.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they have to know. And I was told when we started this thing that, Bud, you can't do this. The people who work for the company can't handle the bad news. And in all the years we've done this thing, I think we've lost one person that said, I think the company's going to go broke, and I really don't know that I want to stay here for that. And in the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, we did, in fact, put the company into a death spiral. We bought a company in Mobile, Alabama that we knew was losing $3 million a year. And they really wanted to keep that sale secret until it actually happened. So we went in there without a lot of information. We had the audited financial statement at the end of the year. And this is where success does not make you smart, it makes you arrogant. And we knew what was wrong with the company. We knew how to turn it around. And we'd go blowing into there. We closed on a sale November 2008. Lehman Brothers had gone broke in September of 2008. So at the very beginning of the Great Recession, we closed on this thing. And we didn't lose $3 million in a year. We lost $9 million in 4 months.
Oh, no.
And the rolling 12 chart literally looked like a death. And we had, it was actually the lady that resigned came out of the mortgage foreclosure business. And she was in the IT group, and her husband was in the IT group. So both of them are in the same company in a death spiral. And she came out of an industry that's now booming, which is the mortgage foreclosure business. And so she gets recruited by the company that she resigned from to come to work for Mingledorff's, and it was a given. She was going back to the mortgage business. That's the only person I know of that ever resigned because we gave them the numbers, and the numbers looked so bad that I need to get out of here. And so that's how it all started, and now y'all, and we was talking earlier, doing blogs, and the word didn't even exist. So here we are in our own studio.
Well, we are really happy to be here, and we're really thankful that we get to do this for Mingledorff. So.
Yeah, we are.
It really is. It's a great thing that using. It's one thing to have technology. It's another thing to figure out how to use it to your advantage and take us where other people aren't going, within our industry. The company is unique in that we get up. Back in the day, I would come to work trying to think of what is our customer's single biggest problem and how can we solve it.
Mm-hmm.
And that led us to create our own accounting company. Contractor Financial Services was a full-blown accounting company buried within an HVAC distributorship. And I used to share that with other distributors, and they were, oh, yeah. Well, I tell you what, in the Great Recession that we were just talking about, our bad debt losses were 1/5 of the industry average. There are people employed in the air conditioning industry, probably hundreds, that still have their jobs because Mingledorff's had this accounting services company. And our customers knew they weren't making any money long before it showed up on their year-end statements. A lot of our customers in those days were literally running their companies out of their checkbook. And they didn't have accounting. Now QuickBooks and all of that came along and obsoleted our accounting company. And that's another lesson, is that the company that will someday destroy your company doesn't look like your company.
Right.
Toys R Us didn't look like the mom and pop toy store, and Walmart does not look like Toys R Us.
Yeah.
And so our accounting company was obsoleted literally by accounting technology. But we still do the coaching, and we still have the dealer development group, as we call it. And Mingledorff's mottos, I just was having a new employee orientation. We put up the company's motto, and that was developed literally in a meeting where I read somewhere that everybody needed to know the purpose of what the company existed for.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you arrive at the purpose is you ask people, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why do we do this? And so why do we have a technical service group? Why do we have an accounting company? Why do we have these blogs, for example? And the answer was that we help contractors grow their businesses and make more money. Well, making more money was not politically correct, so then they changed it to this. It went through the elevate, all this. So we wordsmithed it. But the truth of the matter is that the forte of the company, going back to when the company was created as a contracting company, is that we help our customers grow their businesses and become profitable. And I've had customers say, look, I was a train dealer for 20 years. In the first 12 months that I was a carrier dealer, my profits doubled because we came in and said, well, if you do this, if you do that. And the downside of that is that you can actually get a reputation that we tell people how to run their companies, and we don't. We actually make suggestions.
Right.
That this, if you do this, this will work better than that, and and all of that kind of thing. But that's how it all got started, and y'all are just an extension of something, a glorious extension of something that didn't exist. And this all started, oh gosh, early 1970s.
Wow.
Back when, before I started all of this stuff, I actually bought from my father the controlling interest in Mingledorff's in 1974. And I had an inheritance from my grandfather. And instead of diving off the ship into a sea of booze and blondes, I took my money, took all of my money and bought stock in Mingledorff's, and so my dad said,
I think that's
well,
a
if
much
you're
better
gonna do
investment.
that, yeah, so instead of diving off the ship, I bought stock in Mingledorff's, and so when I first met Shirley, my little wife, in 1973. she told me one day that she didn't know how the company was doing until we got a Christmas bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And she really didn't have a clue what was going on within the company. And I, of course, as the owner of the company, was getting financial statements every month, and I knew what was going on. She didn't. And she's working in the company, and so this was ridiculous. So then I started changing it. And so that's when it started, 1974, whatever, yeah. The year she got her first Christmas bonus and realized and told me that she didn't know what was going on within the company. We'd only been dating we started dating in May of 73. And so probably December of 73 was since she got a Christmas bonus. Whoa, we had a decent year.
Yeah.
So,
Well, take us back to the beginning. How has the HVAC industry transitioned since you first got started in it?
oh gosh, first thing when we first got started, let's go back all the way to 1939 for how we got into the air conditioning business. February 1939, the Carrier Air Conditioning Company sent a representative to Savannah, Georgia, to sell my grandfather an air conditioning system for a house he was building. Problem was, Carrier didn't have a single contractor in Savannah that could put in an air conditioning system. They were meeting with a 25-year-old Georgia Tech graduate, my father, and his father owned a machine shop called the Forest City Machine and Foundry. And they had bid on a contract to build a minesweeper. So this was the lunch of the ultimate gunslingers. You had a 25-year-old sitting there that bid on a contract to build a minesweeper. They didn't have a shipyard. You got a guy that built an air conditioning system, doesn't have a way to get it installed.
Mm-hmm.
So literally in Savannah, Georgia, there was no one that had ever even seen an air conditioning unit. So the Carrier Air Conditioning Company sent down with the air conditioning equipment when it came from Syracuse, came a bus with some Carrier people on it, and they taught the machinist at the Forest City Machine Shop on how to install that air conditioning system. So in 1939, Mingledorff Incorporated, as a mechanical contracting company, installed the very first air conditioning system in Savannah, Georgia. And it was in a house, wasn't in a bank, wasn't in a movie theater, wasn't in a printing shop and all of this other stuff where the Carrier Air Conditioning Company got started. This thing was in a house. And so that rocked along until World War II. Carrier built tank components. We went to work for the shipyard. Not we, I wasn't even born, but you know, my father, they went on, and the philosophy, I asked my father one time, I said, you guys, had you ever built a ship before? No. Oh. I said, you honestly bid on a contract to build something you never built before? He said, Bud, you hire people that know what you don't know. I said, Dad, don't make, I said, it isn't that easy. He said, don't make it harder than it is. And the family philosophy, even before all of that, was that the company, Mingledorff Incorporated, Savannah Machine and Foundry, the shipyard, are simply a concept. And the thing that makes it real are the people that actually work in the company that do what the company does. And without them, there is no company. This is a building. This is not a company.
Mm-hmm.
And so that started, and Dad he explained all of that to me later, you know, that Mingledorff's ability to produce anything wears shoes. And this was his exact quote. He said, your ability to produce anything at Mingledorff's wears shoes and goes home every day. Whether they come back tomorrow is their decision, not yours. And I said, well, Dad, I need to point out to you that your shipyard never built a ship. 4,000 other people built 26 ships. So he was ridiculing Mingledorff because we didn't have the ability to produce anything. They had a factory mentality. You have to have the ability to build something. In a mechanical contracting company, he's building an air conditioning system. You buy the components and you put it all together and you make it work. We're buying boxes and shipping them. His idea is Mingledorff's, if you want to buy the thing, fine, go ahead. And so when I first got out of the Army, when the war ended, my father left the shipyard, took 13 of my grandfather's engineers with him, along with his chief financial officer. They went back into the air conditioning business, and as a mechanical contracting company, in 1958, Carrier, in their divine wisdom, changed the franchise to a distributorship. And we had to move the company from Savannah to Atlanta. Savannah was still arguing about why horse-drawn wagons didn't have to have license plates, but trucks did. There were no highways or anything coming out of Savannah. So if you're going to distribute something to Albany, Georgia, you're not going to do it from Savannah. And Mingledorff had a branch as a contracting company in Albany, Georgia. So the fellow that was chief financial officer, Ed Eccles, became president of the company, moved it to Atlanta. He took one secretary from Savannah, and we hired the two guys with Carrier Atlanta that were actually in the wholesale business, Jack Crowley and another guy by the name of Bob Kesterton. Jack Crowley left the company, created his own contracting company. Bob stayed with the company, ultimately became president of the company. Mm-hmm. We lost money hand over fist for 4 years, from 1958 to 1962, because the distribution business is a volume business, and we didn't have enough volume. I mean, we're out there talking electricians and plumbers into going into the air conditioning business, and what you had to do was you had to convince them that once they air conditioned all the stores and the banks and stuff downtown, that there was going to be a future to this business. And I can remember as a little kid, we had a tent at the county fair, and we had a tent with a big sign that said, "Come in and feel air conditioning."
So you're trying to get people hooked on the feeling of nice, cool
comfort.
air.
Yeah. And we did. The industry, Carrier invented an air conditioning unit. They didn't invent the industry. Carl Benz that invented the car didn't invent the automobile industry. The automobile industry evolved, and the air conditioning industry evolved. And so Mr. Eccles, when I was living with him when I was 16, spending the summer with him, he used to keep a chart next to his breakfast table where he wrote down temperatures for the day, because the business was add-on and replacement. Add-on, it wasn't a replacement business. It was add-on, and when it got hot on the weekends, when the husband was home, bought air conditioners.
Yeah.
And there was a direct relationship to the misery index to how much air conditioners we were going to sell. Mm-hmm. And so Mr. Eccles would chart it on his at his breakfast table every morning. He would chart the temperature for the day, and he could tell how much we were going to sell based on the temperature. And then in the early 1970s, about the time I bought the controlling interest in the company, was the year the builders started putting air conditioning in new houses. People moving from apartments that were air conditioned wanted air conditioning in their new houses, and in 1974 was the first year that air conditioning began to show up in spec houses. And then it evolved. Then the Great Recession, the recession 1983 came along, and literally we didn't get back to the industry numbers until 1987. The new construction market got hammered so badly in 1983 that it took 4 years for the market to come back. So the industry came back in '87. And now here we are. And again, my philosophy is that this building, once it's built, we'll never see that again in my business career. So I want to sell everything that's in the building. I want to sell the grills, the registers. I want to sell the tubing, and sell the flex duct, and so I looked at the building as a lost opportunity if we didn't sell everything that went with the building. Well, that's a different world because you're selling a machine that solves a problem. Now you're selling grills and registers and stuff that's a commodity. And it's sold based on price. What's your price? An 8-inch box of flex. So now you've got a company geared to solve problems, and at the same time now we are selling on low price. The differentiator when you're selling flex duct is what your price. It's not what brand you have or anything. That's the flex duct is flex duct.
Right.
So who cares? So anyway, that's how we ended up. The industry evolved into what it is today. Didn't happen overnight.
I love hearing the history about the company, especially too. That we weren't always into air conditioning. It kind of evolved. We kind of evolved into that too.
Yeah, no, it's funny. This new employee orientation meeting today starts at 9, ends at 3. I used to spend 2 days.
I know.
And of course the pushback from the stores and everything was in 2 days. But everybody would get this lesson on not just the history of the company, but why. Why do we have, you see, we sell Carrier and Bryant, and that makes us quite different even within the Carrier family that we have both brands under one umbrella. We actually have 2 organizations that compete with each other. We have a Carrier dealer organization and a Bryant dealer organization. And they have different marketing philosophies and different market position. And it's not just a price difference between the 2 brands. There's an image difference between the 2 brands within the marketplace. So if you're actually going to explain that to everybody, you don't do that from 9 to 3.
Yeah.
But then the question is, do you ladies really need to understand all of those nuances? And is that important? To me, it was important. To the guys running a distribution center that has to give up somebody for 2 days. No,
Yeah.
It's not important. So anyway, I got shot down, and now my part, gosh, I drove six and a half hours to get here from Bluffton because I hit all that traffic.
Yeah.
And I came up on a Sunday. I'm thinking, but it's the Sunday after spring break, and it's the Sunday before Easter.
Yeah.
And I hit Macon, and it took me an hour and a half to go 30 miles. And so anyway, I drove 6, and my part in the meeting today is 30 minutes.
I know.
I'm going from 2 days to 30 minutes. But yeah, it is what it is. It's working better. We have a studio now that can watch the tape.
Yeah. So what inspired you to join the family business, and what were some of your earliest roles?
Well, of course, when I first started, I was 16. My parents got a divorce, and it's typical of people to get a divorce. They set out to destroy each other.
Yeah.
And when people do that, they sometimes do a better job than they really imagined that they could do. So literally, I was sent off to prep school because my parents were getting a divorce, and when the divorce was over, the house that I grew up in had been sold on the courthouse step, got foreclosed on. So Dad sends me to Atlanta. I had said I wanted to be in Mingledorff, and he had a 3-bedroom apartment. And so my brother, and my sister were living with him in the apartment, and I got sent to Atlanta to live with Mr. Eccles for the summer. So the first summer I lived with Mr. Eccles, I think I was 16, but I didn't have a car. So the receptionist at the office would pick me up in the morning at his house and then bring me home in the afternoon. And then the next year, I lived in a boarding house on Ponce de Leon. So the first year I was the parts warehouse, and I was only part-time. I mean, that's how small the company was.
Yeah.
I was the parts guy. And, but I was only here for 3 months in the summertime. And so then I'd go back to prep school and then come back. Then I was off to college, and then I was off to the Army. So, I mean, I did everything from working in a warehouse and parts. I actually took window unit floor plan inventory. We sold window units, and we put them on floor plan.
Oh.
And some of our biggest customers were furniture stores and appliance stores. And our biggest customer in Savannah was Love Tire Company that sold window units. And I had a little yellow Volkswagen, and I'd go around the state counting window units on floor plan. And so I did some of that. And they knew never to put me in sales. I majored in accounting. Mr. Eccles was a CPA, and he told me, he said, Bud, you're going to own the company. You're going to hire engineers. You need to study accounting. My father was an engineer, and it was a great despair that I didn't go to Georgia Tech. So I went to Wofford and studied accounting. And so I came up through the company through administration and management, managing inventory, pricing, and all of that type of thing. And so Bob came, of course, through the company in sales. So in his mind, the sales force was the center of the universe. And we had sales plaques all over the company. And it is true, nothing happens till somebody makes a sale.
Mm-hmm.
But whether or not you get the second order depends on how well you handle the first order.
Right.
So I come through the organization handling the first order. And so you'll notice there are no sales plaques and stuff. And we give out sales plaques, but we don't hang them on them. There's not a cathedral in our building
Yeah.
to all the salesmen that won all the awards through all the years. And so I come along and change the culture from, and it was easy to do because, again, everybody was terrified of the Japanese, and the Japanese were not about, they weren't winning because they were outselling us. They were winning because they had better quality.
Mm-hmm.
And they had better management systems. And so I came along and changed the culture of the company from a company that revolved around sales to a company that revolved around customer service and solving customers' problems and that type of thing. So then, and then I brainwashed David. I brainwashed my own children. Shirley accused me one time of manipulating my children. And I confess that it's true. I was.
You're just influencing them.
Yeah, influencing. So anyway, I even rattled on. I forgot what your question was.
Just what inspired you to join the business and your roles?
The thing that inspired me about the business was that the business was making a difference in everybody's lives. The air conditioning, when you realize that, you've got this Southern culture thing where people sit on the front porch and you get to know the neighbors and all that stuff. And here comes air conditioning. And we are taking, if you take air conditioning out of Savannah, it's an agrarian society. We're going back growing corn and rice because nobody lives there.
Yeah.
It was a hellhole. And so
it's very hot.
Yeah, and it faces north. Charleston faces south. The trade winds come from the south. Without air conditioning, we had yellow fever epidemics caused by mosquitoes and everything. And so I probably, because of my different perspective, um, saw a future in the air conditioning business. There wasn't a future in the shipyard business. We had converted from guns to butter. And the shipyard was now into the maintenance of the ships. And that evolved into, we owned 9 marinas from Charleston to Fort Lauderdale. And then they decided to go into the real estate business. See, the reason they went into the marina business was that a marina is actually a hobby business, but it sits on the waterfront, of which they're not making anymore. Digging up mangrove swamps to create Fort Lauderdale, that doesn't happen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So waterfront is a limited asset. There's not going to be any more of it.
Mm-hmm.
A marina is waterfront property and it's zoned commercial, which means if you want to put a restaurant there, the neighborhood can't stop it because it's already commercial. So they were buying marinas as a real estate play. Then they decided to go into the cow business. Well, they bought a plantation. It was really just a big empty farm and decided it has to do something, so went in the cow business and lost their shirt in the cow business, exited the cow business, went into the turkey business, lost their shirt in the turkey business, and went back to doing nothing.
Yeah.
And but I was watching all of that, and I was thinking, this air conditioning business, this could be a big deal someday, and so here we are. We just hit $1 billion in sales, and at 33 million privately owned businesses, according to the Wall Street Journal, something they got from somebody, but there's only 580 companies, privately owned companies, that are above $1 billion in revenue, and we're now one of the 580 plus, because we're now in there too. But yeah, it's been a phenomenal thing, and even back when Mr. Eccles was president of the company, and I was with him at 16 years old. He's charting all this stuff. He's telling me that we're going to replace every one of these units we're selling. Someday we're going to replace them. And so here we are. We're now replacing those units for the third, fourth time.
Yeah.
And we're selling all the parts to go with them.
So what's one of your favorite memories from the early days of working with Mingledorffs?
Oh, gosh. Some of them downright funny. But, you know, without all this technology that we have today, you know, you were taking orders over the phone and doing it on yellow pads and then writing out the thing and carrying it out to the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
We were getting shipments on railroad cars. Drop trailers, you know, piggyback trailers had not been invented. And it's not like we didn't invent a trailer, we just figured out how to use it in a different way than dragging it around on wheels. Let's put it on a train and ship them. So I guess really the fascinating thing is getting to know all of the people that have come through the company through all those years. And one of the best things we've done is create this quarter century club where we literally, you don't get to quit, you don't get to retire, because we drag you back. And so you get, the thing that I've missed most in retirement is getting to know the people.
Mm-hmm.
that are, you know, I'm sending anniversary cards to people. And again, this is something that I started, oh gosh, the first anniversary cards I sent out, I sent 12. This month I have 63 anniversary.
Golly.
And so, you know, I read somewhere that again, that people's number one desire is to know that they're significant and that they're appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
It's what drives you to get married. Because when you're married, you know that if you married the right person, you're significant and appreciated by that person.
Mm-hmm.
When your parents die, that may be the one person that thinks you're significant and appreciated. The least felt and therefore the least expressed of all human emotions, gratitude. You feel it, but you don't express it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you do this, the way you actually learn how to express appreciation, adult learning happens through repetition and the passage of time. So I started writing personal notes on every credit card receipt, knowing that the numbers on the front page are all in the machine. And so you circle the server's name and you write thank you, or you write a personal note on a thing. And I have been chased down in parking lots by the restaurant managers and thanking me for thanking their person, who for the first time ever got thanked by a customer.
Yeah.
And so I started with emails kind of long, and then text messages. I got a text message from my doctor the other day. And he's following up, he went to school too about, follow up, make sure that the customer is doing okay. So he sends me this text message and says, that test you did, how'd that go? And so I wrote him back and it went fine. I'm still here. I don't have, they thought I had Alzheimer's, but I don't have Alzheimer's. So anyway, I sent him back and I just said, I just want to thank you because you're the doctor for the entire family. I said, you are the gatekeeper that keep us from, it doesn't matter how successful we are. If we lose our health and we got nothing. And he writes me a note back and says that in his multi-decade career as a doctor, I was the first patient to ever say thank you in terms of a generality.
Yeah.
You'll thank him for giving me a blood test that finds out I have bladder cancer. But nobody just said thank you for being the gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a guy, one of Savannah's most successful doctors. He's been a doctor for 30 years, and I am the first guy to say thank you. I mean,
I think that's a good lesson for everybody.
Yeah,
So
that's definitely a good lesson.
It is really, it's a people business. You guys are in the people business. That's what you're doing. You're communicating with people you can't see, don't know, but you're communicating with them. So it's something I started, and I've been doing it ever since.
What are some of the biggest shifts that you've seen in HVAC technology since you started?
Well, probably one of the biggest shifts, starting with the invention of the control. A thermostat is an on-off device. And then we ended up with night setback thermostat. And Honeywell made the best night setback thermostat. So we started selling night setback thermostats. And then we come up, and there were electromechanical. A night setback thermostat was simply a thermostat with a clock on it. And it would automatically switch the temperature on or switch the temperature off. Then we came out with digital thermostats. And so I put a digital thermostat in our bedroom in Farmbrook when we first got married, and none of the service technicians could service the unit because they didn't know how to operate the thermostat. So I would have to leave the office and go home and meet the technician to operate my own thermostat in my bedroom because he didn't know how to bypass all the setbacks and everything. And Shirley was railing at me for having a thermostat that the guys couldn't operate. And we put the first, Carrier came out with the first furnace that had a circuit board in it instead of electromechanical controls. I bought one. You have to be certified to put one in. So guess what? The technician, the contractor's certified, but the guy putting in my furnace is not. So he takes the furnace out and he knocks on the door. It's in the basement. And he says to Shirley, he said, Miss Mingledorff, this furnace looks like the inside of a cruise missile. I don't know I don't know how to turn the thing on. I got another phone call. And then I called a tech service group and I said, you guys, I don't know how to turn the thing on either. The guy's down there, he can't figure out why the furnace won't come on. The furnace had a built-in time delay in the circuit board. And so when you put the power on it, it doesn't light up for 5 minutes. And he didn't know it. I didn't know it. The tech service group, of course, knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're certifying a person and claiming that that person is the company. But the company is not certified. That guy is certified. That's not the guy on the job. And the truth of the matter about the air conditioning industry, and it's true of anything, you see all these lawyer ads, there's Morgan & Morgan, 180 lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
They're only as good as the one lawyer that gets assigned to your case. I don't care if they have 180,000 lawyers.
Yeah.
So probably the thing that is most interesting about the air conditioning industry is the evolution into the controls business. And we got back into the comfort business when we got into the control business, when we can zone this bedroom and that bedroom, and we're not putting a thermostat in the hallway because there's no sunlight in the hallway. There's also no one living in the hallway.
Right.
But, I go back to those days, a thermostat upstairs, thermostat downstairs. So we replicate the entire operating system so you have two thermostats. No one lives where the thermostats are on either floor. They're in the hallway.
Yeah.
Upstairs, downstairs. So you got the stack effect. The unit upstairs cuts off in the wintertime because the heat rises and, and so forth and so on, and you can't heat downstairs. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing is the evolution of the control system.
So we heard you recently received the Lifetime Achievement Award from Carrier.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that experience and what it means to you?
Oh, well, it means Carrier doesn't have a clue because it wasn't me. I was astounded by it. That literally, because the Carrier is a factory. They make the stuff, and we've had this relationship with them going back. Literally, the two companies pioneered this industry, and so what they don't really, I don't think that they really appreciate is that it wasn't me, but accepting the award, I'm accepting it on behalf of everybody, literally the thousands of people that have come through Mingledorff through the years. If we have 800 and something people today, how many thousands have we had since 1974 when I bought the stock in the company? And I have served on Carrier committees, and I've been president of Hardy, and I've done all of these things. But the reality of it is that when they called and said you're going to get the Lifetime Achievement Award, I'm only one of 5 people that have gotten it. And Bob Keston is one, so 2 of the 5 have all come from Mingledorff.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob I could understand because he was the guy out here talking all of the plumbers and the electricians into the air conditioning business. And I was the guy that came along and decided that we were going to have a different culture to the company. But we've achieved a lot. There's no question about that. I mean, we've come from when I was 16, we had like 12 employees. So, it's a different world. So, yeah, I accepted the award on behalf of everybody else. including the both of you and our operator here. So it was cool. I had my grandchildren there.
Yeah, I saw that,
And
the pictures.
they came running up to the stage, They're probably more proud of me than of me.
I was going to say, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit, because everything that you've talked to us about, I think embodies the reason why you deserve the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Well, it was pointed out to me. I said, but, you can say that it's all the people, but who organized that?
Mm-hmm.
Who put together the structure and the priorities that said we're going to do this before we do that.
Absolutely.
And we're going to communicate how we're doing, and we're never going to lie. We're never going to misrepresent.
Mm-hmm.
We're never going to do those things. Well, who put those values in? And so I got corrected.
Good.
But so, but really, y'all are doing this. I didn't create this. All I did was create an environment that allows y'all to come in and do what you do.
Well, you certainly paved the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right. So for our ender, I have some questions for you. So it's called This or That, and you have to pick one or the other. Which one you like better? Okay.
Okay.
Fried chicken or chicken fried steak?
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken for me, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a fried chicken girl, too. Shrimp and grits or fried catfish?
Oh, gosh. I like everything fried, but yeah, I'll have
Don't
to
we
go
all?
shrimp and grits because I'm from Savannah, and,
It's kind
it's
of
a
classic.
staple in Savannah.
Right.
Shrimp and grits for me,
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
I'm going fried catfish. Biscuits with gravy or cornbread with honey?
Biscuits with gravy.
Yeah.
All right, I'm a cornbread and honey girl.
think I
Yeah,
would do
Shirley's
biscuits
a
and gravy.
biscuit and gravy. Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's a food staple in Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's a core food group.
Sweet potato pie or pecan pie?
Pecan pie, pecan.
Pecan.
We're
I
Jury's
call
still
it
out.
pecans.
Pecan.
I'm
Jury's
a
still out.
pecan
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
How does Jenny say it?
Shirley's
I am
pecan.
actually a sweet potato girl, so
But how do you say pecan?
I say pecan.
Pecan.
Yeah.
Yes, the pecan's more sugary.
It
Sweet
is.
potato more like a vegetable.
True.
Vegetable pie.
What about boiled peanuts or candied pecans?
Oh, now you're hitting a sweet tooth. Probably the candied pecans.
I
'cause
love boiled peanuts.
I
so
know.
much.
I love
can't-
boiled peanuts too,
Uh-huh.
but the jumbo, I've learned not to just buy random boiled peanuts because
Yeah.
if they're small, it's more work
Yeah,
than
it's
it's
true.
worth.
That's
You buy
funny.
the jumbo ones, yeah.
Get more bang for your buck.
I was
there.
standing
Life
next
hack.
to I was standing next to a guy at Publix, and he's picking the peanuts out of the. They sell it by the pound, and he's doing this, doing that. I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm picking out the big ones because I'm going to boil them." So you're going to leave everybody else's small ones. He said,
Yep.
"That's their problem."
All right, one more. Banana pudding or a peach cobbler?
Oh, I love banana pudding.
I'm a Georgia girl, so give me that peach cobbler.
Peach scholars, you can put ice cream on it.
Yeah.
True. That's a classic. I don't
Yeah.
eat either one of those.
Shirley makes a mean banana pudding.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, she does. She does, and she doesn't make it often enough because it.
We'll have to tell her about that then.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll listen.
Well, when she was in the snag mode, she used to make a lot. No, that's is what it is. I can buy banana pudding at Publix, so they actually have it.
That's true.
Hey,
Publix is pretty good about their desserts too.
Yeah,
They make a
But
mean cake for
You
sure.
gotta eat it that day because it doesn't keep overnight.
Yeah.
Bananas get dark.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming
Okay,
on with
well,
us
thanks.
today.
Thanks for everything y'all do, and I'll thank you for everybody that's watching the blogs because it's really a great thing that y'all have created, and you created it. It wasn't, this is all y'all.
Well, thank you for
Yeah,
paving the
thank you.
way so we have this studio to be able to create this content in, and thanks for believing in us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. That's all we have for today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.